What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the PMR Podcast. This is episode 4. I'm Andrew. I'm an addict alcoholic.
What's up? Welcome back. My name is Mitch. I'm an alcoholic addict as well. Welcome back.
It's good. It's good to be back on. Just to remind everybody, anybody who's new coming on, hopping on the train, hopping on the bandwagon. This is a podcast that Mitch and I started just to really just to provide like a platform and a forum for young people in recovery. We both value AA, and we see a lot of value in the steps, you know, where ironically we're on the same step. There's a lot of ironic things about Mitch and I. Go Ravens.
True.
But
Go Ravens, big trust. At the
but
start.
We started this because we wanted to give an opportunity for people like us, young people who think that they're alone in this journey of recovery. Let them know that they're not alone, number one, and number two, just give them an opportunity to be open. You know, we're not scared of letting people know who we are and what we've been through, and I respect the hell out of Mitch for that. And you know, we want to provide a place where people can come listen to our stories and our daily lives, and also let people know that your life doesn't end when you get sober. It gets a lot better if we do this the right way, right? So that's why we're here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about well, to recap, I guess. You know, last episode was tough for both of us. I think we both kind of needed a little self-care afterwards.
Yeah. We both went to the beach.
We both ended up at the beach. I think I floated in the water for like an hour just trying to decompress, because it was a tough episode. We talked a lot about some raw shit, you know, those last couple months before we went to treatment, before we got sober. I mean, that's what we do. We reach a bottom, and then we dig and we find a new bottom. You know, that's how bad it gets, for me, for people like us. But to kind of segue this episode, we're going to be talking a lot about those first, you know, couple of days and first weeks and first experiences in treatment. We both were in-house in-house treatment centers. We both were in residential full-time, full immersion treatment. And I think, you know, we have a pretty comparable story there. And, you know, it helps round out, you know, where we are now. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I think Hoodie Mitch is going to hop into it. He's in like dark mode today. I got
swagged up.
I'm all swagged up, yin yang. I guess we're
Yes,
yin
sir.
yang right now. We got dark and light going on, but
we're yin yang for life at this point, bro. I think you're stuck with me and I'm stuck with you regardless, which I'm excited
happy
about.
with that, bro.
Yeah, me too. Thank God. But I also wanted, I'm super hyped to talk about rehab, because from my perspective, that shit really saved my life. Like, I can't, you know, it's cliche to be like, you know, I went to rehab and it saved my life, or I don't even know if it's cliche, but it really did. And I wanted to say thank you for all the people that have been liking and like subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate that. Even just viewing it and stuff like that, sharing it with friends. We really appreciate that. And we're at 34 on our way to 35, baby. On our way to 35. Come on now. So that's exciting. So thank you for that. And yes, the last episode was tough, but it was good. And we got a comment on the Instagram, the PM Recovery Instagram, from this guy, because I think we were both feeling a little bit like a little, not down, but just like a little mixed up about that last one. And I got a comment from some guy basically saying like, nah, like keep doing what you're doing. We need to hear these stories. And that touched me in a really serious way. How did that? I know I shared it with Andrew, showing him. How'd that make you feel about that?
I mean, dude, like, it gave me some confidence, because honestly, like, we're just I mean, I've never done a podcast, man. I
Right.
don't even know what fucking TikTok is, for Christ's sake. Like, but I I, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and it gives me comfort that we're doing this together, right? But at the same time, we just kind of jumped in, you know, together
Yeah.
without
No idea.
any real script or any real idea of like, all right, where this is going to go. So to get that comment, to have somebody tell us, hey, keep going, like, uh it rejuvenated me, man. It
Hmm.
brought me some peace, and it energized me, like, you know what, this is what I should be doing. Like,
Yeah.
it made me feel peaceful, like this is where I ought to be. So
Yeah.
thank
I
you
agree.
to whoever that was. God
Yeah.
bless
Thank
you.
you. I'm gonna find him real quick. But yeah, I completely agree. Similar to how like our initial goal of trying to just help one person, like it only took one comment. You feel me? Like
Mhm.
that's the power right there. Like one
Yeah.
person, one comment. That's all it is. And yeah, I really, really
I mean, bro,
appreciate
that was enough. That was enough. One comment was enough to give me strength to keep it
Jimmy,
going.
our boy Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Appreciate
All
you,
right,
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
That's the boy.
Big trust.
Big trust. Um, so okay, so today talking about the first days of rehab. So we ended off with my last day was at Denison, and I forgot to add this the last time, but I wrote Greg some crazy long letter, and I have it on my old phone, but I'm too scared. I might read it after this today. But I wrote him this like shaky letter about coming back, and I will be back, and like I'm sure it was very self-will, arrogant driven. But I think I talked about like appreciating him and stuff like that. And then left. And then I got on the airplane to go to rehab. The departure time was 3:33. The rehab that I went to is now currently shut down. Coincidentally, it was in South Carolina, called Sunspire.
Mhm.
It was an inpatient rehab. Um, and so I got there on the 10th. And actually, interestingly enough, I identified the 10th as my sobriety date for my first like 2 years, November 10th, 2016.
That's my
Um,
birthday, bro.
November 10th is your birthday.
My motherfucking birthday. Excuse me. Swear jar. I told you
You
more shit was
honestly,
gonna
bro,
come up.
honestly, you really can't make this up. You truly, that's too much. So I'll
My
think about that
birthday.
later. That's fucking
Yeah.
insane. Anyways, that's insane, bro. That's insane. So I went to rehab on Andrew's birthday, November 10th, 2016. And that was my sobriety date for my first 2 years. And then I changed it to November 11th because I wanted my first day to be my first full clean day. And I went to rehab under the influence. So
Mhm.
November 11th was my first like full clean day. So I changed my sobriety date. So my real one is 11/11/16. But so I got there on the 10th at night, or on the 10th early in the morning, like 1 in the morning or something like that. And I walked in. I remember I got picked up at the airport by a van, which came to be called the druggy buggy, which I did not know until later. But I got picked up in a van, dropped off at the rehab, and one of the nurses and techs that was there checked me in, and they went through all my stuff, my bags and stuff, to make sure I
Mhm.
wasn't bringing anything in and stuff like that. And then I went to go get checked in by the nurse. And they did like a bunch of like preliminary stuff. Yeah. And then so it's like 2 in the morning, and I did not know what to expect. Like I didn't know anything about recovery, rehab. I thought it was for, and forgive me for using this term, but I feel like how we kind of used to identify as this, like I thought it was for like junkies or people that, homeless people and stuff like that. I was extremely misinformed and extremely ignorant to the recovery community and people with substance abuse issues. So I was scared. And I also felt like as soon as I got there, I was like, this is way too much. Like, this is way too much.
It's overwhelming, bro.
Yeah. And then the tech that was working there helped take me upstairs after I met with the nurse, and she's like, "You have a roommate." And I was like, "Oh man." So this place was like a U-shaped renovated hotel into a rehab. It used to be a hotel in South Carolina, like kind of near the beach ish. And it was extremely expensive, which is a whole nother conversation, but the insurance and all that stuff is a whole nother thing. But I got to my room and they opened the door, and I looked in, and there's this like seemingly like a really old guy laying in the close bed to the door, and like really long silver hair. He's like knocked out, snoring. And then she opens the door, and he like wakes up and stared at me. And I looked at him, and I was like, holy fuck. Like this, like I was terrified. Like he was really, his name was Clint. I had to look it up because I hadn't said his name in so long, or thought about that in so long. But he was like like an old cowboy, basically, is the best way I could describe him. Like insanely tan from just being like, he was from Texas, like just being out in the sun, long silver hair. He only smoked Marlboro Reds was the only thing he smoked, and he always had them. And but when we locked eyes, I was terrified, and I went into the room, put my stuff down, the door closed behind me. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I was like, he's gonna kill me. Like, I don't know, like, how are they gonna put me in? I was so always about me,
Mhm.
like he was there to get help, but the way I saw him was as some like villain or some like dangerous person, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't be in a room with some dangerous person, right?
Bro, and the funny part is that you're saying like he's gonna kill me,
Yeah.
and like you're annoyed and scared about that. Well, like this man just like got woken up at 2:30 because some kid is moving into his room. Like it's so funny how like
It's a good
how
point.
we, and when we start this process, we're so like focused on self. It's like this dude just got screwed too. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
just picked up a roommate. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's, I don't know, it's mad funny.
yeah. Very true. And I think I put down my bags and got into this bed, and I can't really exactly remember like all my exact feelings. I know I was scared, nervous, just not knowing what to expect. And none of it was calm for me. None of it felt like I should be there or anything like that. That came later. But that first night was terrifying. And I think waking up into the next day, we had like
So
a
you
full,
slept. So you slept.
I think, I mean, I definitely did sleep. Yeah. Did you not
Damn,
sleep?
bro. I ain't fucking sleep.
You didn't sleep? Yeah.
Not
Well,
for a
I do
while,
have the
man.
ability to fall asleep. I mean, I could fall asleep on a hardwood, on a tile floor. Like, I can't sleep pretty much anywhere. Uh, I don't think I immediately fell asleep, but I definitely, it was like 2:30. I had been flying, and it was a lot, but
Mm.
when we woke up, the rehab had this extremely scheduled regimented day for us. I think it was probably like 30 to 40 people there total, which is kind of, I don't know if that's big or small really. Um, but like woke up and met Clint in the daylight, and he ended up being like the coolest, craziest stories. Like, I'll just tell you one story about him. Ended up becoming really close while we were there, and he didn't really mess with technology and phones and stuff like that, so I didn't ever really talk to him after. But he was in rehabs in like the 60s, and he said that he went to this rehab in the 60s, where at that time it was like an experimental rehabilitation center in Texas, and that their thing was, you get there and it was for drinkers. You get there and you tell them your favorite drink, and they get a bunch of that, and then they put you in a room and force feed you shots of that drink. And the first day it's like 10 shots or something, and then you go back to your room and they soak a blanket in that liquor or that drink, and you have to sleep in that room with this soaked blanket. And then the next day you do 15 shots and then you get soaked in that, and then 20 shots and you get soaked in that, with the intent of making you hate that liquor. And he said he left that rehab, it was like a week long. He said he left that rehab, like almost died from one.
Yeah,
And for
dude.
two, he just said he left there like an absolute demon, like a tolerance
Yeah.
for 30 shots. Like, and like, that was just a
That's
crazy
like
story.
drinking boot camp, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
it was. It
what?
sounded like, it would be a real big issue now.
Jesus.
But yeah, I think the first day we had there were optional activities really early, like a walk at 5:30, and then like some yoga at 6 and stuff like that, and then breakfast started at 7, and then we had like a whole house meeting at 8, I think, for everyone there. And yeah, I went in there and got to see everyone that was in there, and I was definitely one of the younger ones. I think there was like, when I first got there was 2 other people that were near my age, and 2 other people near my age, but I was the youngest initially. And they basically like went through like roll call. I think we did a prayer in the morning, which I was like, I've never prayed in my life. Like I'm not doing that. And yeah, that was the first, I mean, I guess that the rest of that day I had to like go through all the classes. So we had like an individual therapist there and a group therapy class too. And I pulled up all my notes from rehab for today. But my individual therapist there, like, really probably spurred me into thinking that this is what I want to do for my life. Like, she was in recovery, and we had similar growing up experiences. And she talked to me about how this is like, once she got into recovery, all she wanted to do was help other people younger in recovery. And I was like, damn, that is all I want to do. And I didn't start making that switch until like about 2 weeks into the rehab. Because that whole first week I was very much like judging.
Yep.
Like some of the coolest people, the people that I left there with, these like lifelong friendships and stuff, I thought they were like, I was like so adverse to them, like so repulsed by them. And when I first met them, I was like, this is like a 40-year-old person. Like they don't have any of their shit together. Like, look, point, no looking at me, very much looking at them. And
Yeah.
it was like, it was crazy. I mean, that first week, I just didn't, first week and first day, like I basically was disengaged.
Yeah,
The
dude.
whole thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I spent the whole, what I remember too is like what I'm hearing and what I did too is like what it boiled down to was fear of looking at myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like taking everyone else's inventory the first week I was there. Like,
Right.
oh, this dude's 40 and lives with his mom. And this dude got fired. And this dude did worse drugs than I did. Like everything was like, all right, this is why I don't belong here. This is why I'm better than these people. Like,
Yeah.
so sick. Like,
Yeah.
and so obvious what I was, now that I look back on it, like this is so clearly and obviously what I was doing was trying to hide from my own shortcomings. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I was too scared, too cowardly to take a look at
Exactly.
why am I here? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. The it's kind of like pretty far removed from me, I guess. Like, I don't know why I keep all the letters that I ever have gotten in my entire life, more or less, in and out of recovery. I keep all my letters. I keep everything I've ever written down. And I have this huge like thing of letters and notes and stuff like that. And I think since I left rehab, I've only looked at it. This will be the second time I've looked at it, which is interesting. I don't know why. Because I attribute that experience with being amazing. I think like similar to what we're doing, it is hard to go back there. And I think like why I'm like glossing, I'm like, I could hear myself trying to gloss over it when I was just talking about it. Cause like, if I get back into it, that the real feelings that I was feeling were extremely terrifying, because like, it's easy to be like, yeah, I was in there and I was scared. Okay. Scared doesn't really like put into perspective.
No,
Like
bro, it doesn't do it justice.
I left school. I left my sports team. I left all my friends. I remember I put up an Instagram story. Or no, I didn't put up an Instagram story. I might have put up a Snapchat story, and I only texted a couple friends. It was like one or two or three. And I was like, I'm going to rehab. Don't know when I'll be back. Like, love you or whatever. And like sent out my address to a couple of those guys because we could get mail, and we got one phone call per week. And I think I spent that whole first week, A, detoxing from all the shit that I was on, and B, just like zoned out, going from thing to thing, kind of.
Yeah,
To
man.
be honest. Yeah.
Well, we're numb, you know what I mean? When we get to these places, like I think part of the reason that you might be glossing over it now is because like you glossed over your first week while you were in it. Like I did the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Facts. That's a good
I
point.
was like, bro, like I was so scared to dive in that like I was like, all right, we're gonna put the protective film over our eyes, over our brain. Like I'm just gonna walk with the rest of these people and like check the box.
Good point.
And get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
Like,
because all my visceral memories come from like 3 weeks and on, because I was there for 35 days. So my like last 2 weeks, I have the most notes and the most everything. That's a really good point. I probably was just like zombified, kind of just going to one thing to the next, like just to show face. You know what I mean?
I mean, we wanted to go, like, I wanted to get out. Like, I remember the first phone call I made was to my mother. I said, I'm staying, because the minimum that you could stay there was 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you can leave whenever you want, right? But 4 weeks was like, this is the minimum stay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not staying here a minute over fucking 28 days. Like I am leaving as soon as the clock strikes midnight. I want an Uber. I want a limousine.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. Right.
Like I was so like twisted that I had a whole grand like idea in my head of like this whole scene where I was gonna leave after 28 days, like I was gonna call my boys, like dudes like I don't even talk to anymore, but like I was gonna call my boys. They were gonna roll in there like in the limousine with like, you know, backwoods and pill bottles and cough syrup and fucking everything else. And I was just gonna be like, they're gonna pull in. I was gonna get in there. I was gonna light one up, and I was just gonna like middle finger to everybody. I'm out after 20. Like I had this. It was like a fantasy that I had my first few days there. Like, and that's why like talking about this, like I'm so grateful that that changed, because like that was the default for my brain. It was so messed up that I thought I was like, I was getting, there were people, a dozen or more people at that point, like who were either paid or otherwise, like to help me get better.
Right.
And I was like, I hate all of you. I don't want anything to do with this. And the only thing that I was thinking about was, when can I get out and do more drugs with my friends? Like, that's why I think we gloss over it now, because it's like embarrassing to me that this is how I acted. Like it's ridiculous, dude. But
did your rehab allow you to have your phone?
During certain times, we got to use it unless there was something like going on, like a abusive relationship, or if we were at risk for something. Pretty much got to use it every day for at least an hour, which is different than yours. It sounds like
Yeah.
you were pretty much cut off, right?
Yo, I remember I had this thing where I would put my hand down by my pocket for the first week and a half to check for my phone. It was never there. Like,
And your heart would skip a beat, wouldn't it?
yeah. I was like, where'd I put my phone? Oh, that's right. I'm in inpatient rehab in South Carolina.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? But yeah, dude, I feel like we can have a whole episode about some of the people that we met in there. I don't know. Are you close with, or do you keep in contact with anyone that you're in there with still?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if we want to just hop into this real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely close with a lot of these people. We have a little bit of a different story here. I mean, we both did inpatient, but you were in South Carolina, like a long way from where Mitch is from.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I had my connection with this treatment center is intimate, like is long. Like, I guess we're hopping into it right now.
Yes, sir.
But like,
As the wind blows,
oh man,
if you want to.
my mother's best friend in our town is the executive director at this treatment center. Let's just call her Anne. She knew I had a problem a long time before I went to treatment. She's a neighbor. I grew up with her kids. I was around, and I did a good job hiding. She's in recovery. She's been sober 30 years.
Yeah.
So she knows, the restlessness, the irritability, the discontent, the fear, the doubt, the insecurity that surrounds us in this disease, right? And she could see it on me, like it's like a mark. Like we could spot each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, and she could spot me. Probably in high school at some point. And I became scared of that. Like, so I would purposely, like, I didn't want to see her if we didn't, function down at their place. No, I'm all good. I don't need to go. Like, I'm busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like, I was like, because I was scared. I was like, she can see. She knows. Like, she knows that I'm using her and I'm this, because I thought I could, because I was hiding. I thought I was fucking Houdini. I was like, I was like, I'm hiding this from everybody else. Like, but I had like this feeling that she knew was going on. And so I think in 2018 or something, she suggested to my mom that I come down for a day to this treatment center. And I now work there, which is ironic in and of itself.
To say the least.
But I guess I'm not going to use their name. I don't know what their feelings of it are. Maybe they'll want me to plug them later down the line. But right now, we're just going to just say I went to treatment there, and it's a great place, and it saved my life. But one of the proponents of the place is a decently high profile former athlete. Somebody I knew, somebody who spoke at my high school, somebody who's like a pretty well-known addict in recovery. He does the high school speeches, and he talks to athletic teams, and it's unbelievable work. But at the time, I'm like, screw this guy.
Right.
So 2018, my mom's best friend is like, let's get Andrew down for a day to the treatment center. It's in Southern Mass. It's in Seekonk. It's near Providence. So it's like within an hour from my house. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, this is not good. Like, I'm in the middle of college. I'm full swing opiate and benzo addict. Like, all I tell my parents is that I'm smoking a little weed. I think I have them fooled. I know for sure I do not have this woman Anne fooled. Like,
She's on your ass.
I'm like, crap. So I roll in there high because I had to do it to appease my parents. I was like, I'll go. Like, I acted all tough, like I have nothing to hide. Like, this would be cool. I'm excited. Like, and this is a nice place. Like, they have massages and acupuncture and all this cool stuff. Like, they got a basketball court and a pool and a tennis court. Like, it's a nice place. It's like a freaking country club for addicts. Like, and so I get there and they kind of, this Anne is a master of getting people like us to agree to these things. So she says, yeah, come in and you can get a massage with our massage therapist, and then maybe you could talk to the guy who owns it, who started it, the athlete. And so I go and I'm like, all right, I'll get this massage and then I'll bounce. Like, and of course, being me and needing no excuse to get high, like, I get high before I go. Like, how twisted is that? Like, I'm taking Xanax and Oxy before I go to the treatment center. Like, I'm smoking a dab pen, like, as I'm pulling into the parking lot. Like, and so I get the massage, and then I pretty much get sat down with this guy, and he's intense. Like, he's good at what he does. He's intense. He's been through a lot. He knows what he's doing in terms of speaking to addicts and alcoholics. And he's like, all right, Andrew, like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I do? Of course, I'm like, I'm glazed over. I'm out, I'm like, what do you mean? What do I, and he's like, what do you do? What drugs do you do? He's like, you're in college, you're an athlete, you're hanging around the party scene. He's like, you got to be doing some stuff. And I'm like, I just smoke weed and I do it occasionally. Like, I'm lying through my teeth to this guy who was a heroin addict and would never deem to judge anybody, like, right, for their usage. And I'm lying to this, to the woman, and I'm lying to everybody. And we keep going back and forth and keep trying to change the subject. I'm sweating now, like, I'm shook, and he knows he's got me. And so finally I'm like, all right, I gotta go. Like, and I shake his hand and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And like, I could feel, because I know, like, he's breaking down walls inside me. Like, I'm starting to think, like, oh my God, like, because he's like, how often do you smoke weed? And I'm not just thinking about weed now. I'm thinking about cocaine and Xanax and pills and everything else. And I'm like, dude, I do this stuff every day. Like, I'm starting to have a panic moment, like, just reflecting for the first time really ever on, like, oh crap, like, I do this every day. Yeah. Like, I'm like, do I do this? I'm like, oh my God, I do. I need it. Like, and it dawns on me, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Like, this guy's, it's working. This guy's getting what he wants. Like,
time to go.
I'm like, I gotta get out. And so I leave, and I never forget, I'm walking out of the main building and towards my car, and he's like, it's good to meet you. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I never ever forget it. He says, I'll see you soon. And I'm like, I almost went in on this. If he wasn't 6'4" or like 230, I was one of the most angry, because he just deeply penetrated my ego. Like,
crazy.
he's like, I'll
bro.
see you
That's
soon.
insane.
And I was like, bro, in my head in the car, I turned the car on.
What the fuck
I
does he mean?
turned
See
the
you soon.
I turned the dab pen on. I turned the music all the way up. And I'm like, fuck this guy, see me soon. He's never gonna see me again. Like, I'm like, I'll never see this guy again in my life.
So juxtapose that with your first day.
3 years later, I see this guy.
Yeah. I'm back.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we've talked about the story. Like, I got like we talked about in the beginning, right? I would reach the bottom of the hole, and then I just keep digging and find a new bottom, and so that ended in me pretty much facing homelessness and you know, unemployable. You know, not just unemployed. I'm unemployable.
Yeah.
Like, I got no money. I'm spiritually bankrupt, as they say. I got no hope for anything. Um, my parents picked me up, and I'll always remember this. I've been to Nantucket once since I got sober, but this ferry ride is an hour from Nantucket to Hyannis, and on this ferry ride, like, that's when I know I'm like, things start to dawn on me. Like, I feel like I sobered up really quickly, and I was under the influence for sure, but I knew I was like, something felt different, because I've gotten in trouble before or whatever and had to explain my way out of hospital bills or ambulance or whatever it is. But I was like, dude, like, it's over. Like, I had this whole sense of like, it's over. Like, I've never seen my parents, like, they look so distressed, like, and almost like not hopeless, but just at the end of their rope. They were just like, what do we do? They never had to deal with anything like this. They never thought probably they'd have to deal with it with their own kids. Like,
Right.
they're like, oh my God. And that broke my heart too. Like, I'm like, because my parents are pretty happy people. I'm happy to be alive. They're, they work hard. They're pretty positive individuals, and to see them look that heartbroken, like, and lost, like, that's maybe one of the first times I was like, my actions have very, very negatively impacted somebody else's life. Like, and it hurt, but it wasn't enough for me to think like, I got to get sober, right? Because I brought stuff home with me. I get home and go to sleep. I wake up the next morning, and my mom's friend, Anne, she's right there, like, pretty much pulling up. Like, my bedroom here, you can see the driveway, and she's pulling in, and I'm like, oh fuck, like, I'm screwed. Like,
Yeah.
like, this is it. Like,
God damn.
and I knew I had a choice then. Like, I didn't really have a choice. I had a choice. You always have a choice, but I knew that I was in trouble because there were drug tests now. There was urine and blood tests that had been done at the hospital. Like, there was physical evidence that I wasn't just smoking weed occasionally. Like, there was a lot of other boxes that had been checked on that blood test. And she sat me down. I never forget. She sat me down in the backyard on this, like, patio, and she was like, all right, like, start talking, pretty much. And right then I knew I had a choice, like, try to talk my way out of this and just, like, make this so much more painful, or just tell the truth. Like, I think for the first time in many years, like, which is a sad thing for me to admit, but is true. Like, for the first time in many years, I told the truth. I said, I have a problem. Like, I can't stop popping pills. I can't stop using. Like, I'm using against my will. Like, nights, mornings, what you name it. Times I say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I always use. I cannot stop. And I was crying and like a wall, like we talked about when I was at the treatment center in 2018 for that day, like that wall that had been kind of chipped a little bit that day, like it came tumbling down all of a sudden. Like, it was out. I was like, I can't stop. Like,
Planted that seed.
it did, right? When I look back, like you just said, like that seed, I'm so grateful for that 2018 visit, like,
Hmm.
because it did. And I never really felt right using after that, because I knew where I had been. I knew the conversations I had. I knew the people who were invested in my well-being. Like, and I knew that I was letting them down when I was using. Like, you know, the term like drinking in peace or in safety or whatever. Like, after that, not that I ever really could, but after that, I could never drink or use in peace or safety. I was like, there are people that know that something is wrong with me and I
Hmm.
am letting them down.
Hmm.
Like, and that sucked. Like, that took away the fun. I was so resentful, like, to this woman, Anne, and to this the athlete, to, you know. And
Yeah.
now I'm so grateful, like, that they made it hard for me, because when it was time for me to make that choice, like, it made that choice a little bit easier. Like, I have to make this choice. Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, as we were saying, you know, I'm in the backyard
Right. Right.
talking with Ann, and I came clean, and it did feel like a weight dropped off my shoulders, right? A little bit. Because all of a sudden, like, I didn't have to hold on to this secret anymore. Um, I didn't have to protect this thing. And, you know, I got there the next day. You know, I packed my bags, and I got there the next day, and I'll never forget, like, at this point, I was out of drugs pretty much. Yeah, I didn't have a, you know how it is, like, and people with pill addictions get this too. Like, you set aside like a certain number for each day after you get like a bulk, you know, pickup. And like, you say, I'm gonna take 4 this day and 4 this day and 4 this day. You might start with like 4 that day, but then you take 6 the next day and you take 8 the next day, and then your whole plan's screwed. Like, and you need like it. So that's what happened, you know. And I didn't have anything left, but I think I had enough weed for a joint,
Hmm.
and I smoked it that last night. Um, that was April 25th, 2021. Smoked that joint. Um, it was like sad, like, because I realized, like, because I was sobering up already, and
Yeah.
I realized, oh my God, like, this doesn't make me high. Like, smoked a whole, you know, probably 2 gram joint to myself, and that, you know, I didn't even really feel anything. Like, just like an evening out a little bit, and like, I was I really kind of realized I didn't have like the masks and the, like, the the coverings of taking pills, and having that like emptiness take hold of me, and that like that type of high. So I really could think, and I was like, oh my God, like, I am far gone, dude. Like, the things that used to be able to get me high, they don't get me high anymore. Like, I was pretty disgusted with myself, like, overall. A lot of reflection, like that night before I went, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I graduated from college or whatever, like, and all the only thing that I care about or think about is doing drugs. Like, I don't care about, I used to care about sports. I used to care about my body, like, and being healthy. I used to care about relationships and spiritual. Like, I was like, I don't care about anything but pills and drugs. Like, that's it. So I went there the next day. Um, I went there the next day, and it is an hour ride. And again, it was like just so quiet, like such a heavy silence in the car, both of my parents. And we got there, and I kind of pulled out. It's there again. It's different from you. You landed in an airplane and got picked up. Like, you were alone, like, on that plane. Like, you know what I mean? And I had, my parents there, and got there, and I saw there was I was really, really, really lucky. Like, I got there and I heard a basketball dribbling, and basketball is my favorite sport. And I was like, wait a minute, like, people play basketball here? And immediately I kind of just went over there. My parents are like getting an orientation. Like, I was supposed to be getting an orientation. I said, fuck that. And I walked over to the basketball court and I started shooting with some of the guests there. And then I noticed that this was a crazy moment, and we'll keep them anonymous, but there was a dude who was there. He was a year older than me, who I went to high school with, played sports with, and sold and bought drugs with.
That's fucking
Like,
insane.
and we were like, it was like the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
Like, when the three, I was like, you, me? Like,
yeah.
It was insanity. And I got really lucky, and I'll always be grateful to this individual for being there for me. Like, he was there for a couple weeks with me. He got discharged, and then he would come back and visit. And so, like, from a very, early time there, I had support. I had people who I knew from my past, who, like, so it became very normalized to me, like, oh, other people who I know even are like, they deal with this.
And someone close to your age too. Like,
yeah, dude,
that must have been so helpful, because like part of what we're doing too is trying to show that like you can do this before you're 30. You can do this before you're 25. Like, you can. And it helps so much to know that there's someone else closer in age to you doing that. That community is like, I can't tell you how many times I've stayed sober. I like to say that I've stayed sober all by myself. No, I haven't. That's not even anywhere close to true. It's the complete opposite. I've stayed sober through my community and other people helping me and uplifting me. You know what I mean? So that's awesome that you met that guy.
Dude, he was, and again, like you said, like, I will always be grateful for this person, because without, there wasn't a lot of older people here. There were some young guys, and some guys I'm still friends with, and all of that. But, this made it like, it made it okay for me almost to be like, okay, like, maybe it is not ridiculous that I'm here. I was still the youngest person there, but only by a year, and with somebody that I knew who came from the same type of background that I did. And that just, it helped me feel like I could accept the fact that I was in treatment, like, without that much of a fight. And honestly, dude, like, when I think about it now, they threw me right in the fire. I mean, I was withdrawing from opiates. I was withdrawing from benzos. I was not a pretty sight. And people who have gone through that, it's terrible. But I had people there who were looking out for me, opiate addicts, like, who coached me through it, because I really never like gone through real severe withdrawal like that, because I kept up my habit. And So I had to take suggestions, from an early date there. Like I started taking, it's in the AA, they say take suggestions. I started taking suggestions as soon as I got to rehab about like, hey, yo, what do I do about these cold sweats? These guys had me in the shower like every hour, just getting the sweat off of my skin. Like I was changing clothes all the time. I was just staying active. I was like, and it helped with the withdrawal a lot. Um, and I got through it. And I'll never forget. They stuck me right in the fire, similar to you. It's people who don't know, like inpatient treatment, at least in my experience, is very rigid in terms of scheduling. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have a set schedule of meetings, of individual meetings, of topic groups, of discussion. Um, and so I got my first taste of AA and NA and refuge recovery and smart recovery, and a lot of things at this place. And I never forget, like the first day I was there, it was a pretty intense group therapy session. And for some reason, and I don't know, I guess you could call it a spiritual experience, and it goes against my like instinct. When I hear spiritual experience, I'm like, oh, God struck me down with lightning and all this, but that's not what it is. Like
Mm-mm.
it's little things. Like it's little things that let me know that there's something bigger going on. Like your fucking original sober date being my birthday. That's an example of it, right? And,
Real.
I'll never forget, and we can kind of close with this because I'm rambling, right? But that first meeting, I said, they're like, introduce yourself. And I just said, I'm Andrew and I'm an addict. Um, and then it got like, I spoke it into existence. I was like, oh, like I am an addict. Like that felt good to say. Like I don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah.
I, this is me. Like, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know how to process it. And these are all things I learned later down the line. But that first admittance and realization was everything. Like
Mm.
saved my life.
Yeah. The first, we'll just wrap it up. But I did, when you were talking about the first meeting and saying like your name and that, we haven't explained that to people. I think like the I think you see it in like TV shows, and it'll be like some TV shows make, not so much anymore, but kind of like a joke, like Mitch, alcoholic, you know what I mean? But and I think I was like, what the hell, when I went, because I went on the druggy buggy to my first AA meeting with her in the van. It was like a meeting off campus, uh, which is crazy because now I go to meetings sometimes and a van full of guys from and girls from rehabs pull up, and I'm like, been there.
Mm-hmm.
But that first meeting, I was, uh, oh man, we should talk about this more in depth. But did you take a white chip?
24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
I
white
was
chip,
fuck.
bro.
I was embarrassed, bro.
Yeah, I was about to
I was
say,
like,
I
I don't
remember
want to do
being like
this.
completely, my face was like flushed red,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go up and take a white chip, and that like whole surrendering to it, surrendering to this like this thing. I that post that I made yesterday where it's like never recovered, always recovering. That's something that I heard early when I was in rehab, because like, and everyone looks at it differently. I've talked to people that say that they are recovered and that works for them, but for me, I need to keep it active. I
Mm-hmm.
need to understand that it's like always going to be there. Like I have never beaten it, because I'm very much and I love to go into that mindset of like winning, and like win, like I won and it's final.
Oh yeah.
And like that's like can be played into my addiction. And someone told me in this rehab when I was there, the only way you can beat addiction is dying sober.
Yep.
That's the only way you win. And I've said that, I've said that to a lot of people, and I have that written down everywhere. And That's that big thing. And we started that with that white chip,
Yeah,
that
dude, that
initial
white chip
surrender,
is,
even if we didn't fully mean it, right? Because I don't think I could sit here and say that when I picked up that white chip, I was like a big sigh of relief, like, it's over now. Like I can rest.
mm-mm.
I think I picked it up and maybe a little bit of that, but I wasn't wholeheartedly like, this is going to be my journey now. Because that was like, I think
No,
that was like
man.
a day or two into being in rehab.
I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a long time when I
Bro, I
was
was
in
1 foot
treatment,
in,
man.
1 foot out for 3 years,
Hmm.
to be honest with you. I'm going to talk about that more too, but like, that's why I'm so impressed. And I mean, to be completely honest, I'm envious of where you are. And I know we both have, we're obviously like, that is the thing in recovery. It's like you look at someone and they say all the right things and they're doing the right things or whatever, and they could be struggling more than it appears. That's how I
Hmm.
was when I was in the middle of my recovery and even early. Like I had, I mean, I believe you when you say the stuff that you say, but like just knowing my experience, I was fucking not working a program, bro. I fired my first sponsor and I was a fraud, bro, when it comes to
Hmm.
like being in recovery. Like, yeah, I was sober and yeah, I was clean and I haven't picked up and used since November 11, 2016. But a lot of my early and middle recovery was dry alcoholic behavior. But so sometimes, I mean, I just love talking to you and hearing what you have to say and shit like that. It's just like, that is inspiring to me to even keep working on mine where we're at now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I learn something from you every time we get to talk, and that's the beauty of it. Like, and neither of us clearly are perfect. Neither of us work a perfect program. Like, but I don't think any, and they say this in the halls, right? Like nobody's ever worked a perfect program. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody in the history of this thing. Like, so I think the other thing too is for us to be kind to ourselves. Like, look at where we are. Like when because I get in my head and I'll start beating myself up, or I'm not writing enough. I'm not working on step 4 enough. I'm not doing my inventory. Like sometimes I got to take a step back and just say, you know what, dude, like, are you sober today? Like, did
Mm-hmm.
you pick up? Like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, let's just start with that.
Right. Because
Like,
that's our
if we
ultimate
can,
thing, right?
I don't care about anything else right now. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know what happened tomorrow. I don't know what'll happen the next day, but like, if the rest of the day was a failure, but I didn't use, like, then I can go to sleep
Mm.
satisfied, you know? Like, so yeah, bro. I mean, to echo what you're saying, I've been in and out of being committed to this. Like, I get that romantic feeling back sometimes, like, oh man, I just want to smoke a joint. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the beauty of it is that when we have more now because we got each other, like I got people that I can reach out to and be like, yo, I'm feeling this or that. And usually these people set me straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's my higher power working through people.
Yeah.
And that's, that's the beauty of it, bro.
Yeah. That's something I really learned in the last year and a half is asking for help, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was at school, I would ask for help, but it would be guided over. It would be a way less version of what's actually going on in my head, or I had to be really spiraling to ask for help. And
Right.
like now, like I'll call my sponsor, like if I get in a fight with someone or something's going on, within like 30 minutes or an hour, I'll call my sponsor and be like, yo, this is tripping me out. Like, what do you think? You know what I mean? That is
Oh
so
yeah.
foreign to me.
I know. I hate
That
I
is
hate
so
doing it
against
naturally.
everything that I've been taught and everything that I think that I am. Cause I want to be this like
Yeah.
bravado,
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
even in recovery. Like I mean, I've always been a confident person. But a lot of that in retrospect was like a scared little kid, like thinking like I need to puff up my chest because I didn't even know why. I just
It's
think,
fight or flight, bro,
yo,
It's our
yeah,
instinct. It's fight or flight.
yeah,
I'm like, oh shit, I'm scared. I could run away or I could try to be, like you just said, Mr. Bravado,
hmm
Mr. Ego. And I'm usually it's let me stand up and try to be like try to make it seem like I'm a tough guy, but
Yeah.
I learned here that I don't have to be tough,
Yeah.
like,
And the tough
to
ones are
be
the ones that
happy
ask
with
for help.
myself. That's the toughest thing to do,
Tough ones are the ones
is
that
to
ask for
say,
help.
hey, I don't know what to do. I need some help. Like,
Yeah. I did want to say we would close it out.
mm.
Um, this was another good one. I'm glad we got to talk about this one. And it wasn't too super intense. It was good.
We had
I
a
feel like,
couple laughs.
yeah, we had some laughs this time. And I'm not leaving in a daze. So
There we
you know,
go. There
I
we
don't know.
go.
How are
What
you
what are we
doing?
talking? What are we talking about next week? I'm good. I'm in the
You're
same
good?
way, man. I'm
Yeah.
not
Next
dazed
week,
out.
I think next week, maybe we get more into rehab, and then I'm gonna post
Mm.
something actually this time about uh some questions from
Yeah.
from
Do we
people.
do we have questions? This is news to me.
Do we have questions? I mean, I have loose questions from friends and stuff and some ideas. One of my friends from Denison actually reached out and said that we should like react to some it could be a lighter ish episode. Like, have you seen this show Euphoria?
Mm-hmm.
I watched it too, and like he sent me some clips and he was like, we should react to that. I thought that was a good idea. Or just like stuff like that, like how addiction is portrayed in on TV and media,
Media.
and
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
That'll be interesting to take it on that.
Yeah,
Take a
that
little break.
show's triggering, bro.
Yeah, dude, that show really, I avoided it, and I actually sometimes avoid shows like that or movies when I hear about them. But that one scene where Rue is overdosing on the ground, I had to stop watching the show for a little bit. That
Mm-hmm.
was like way too visceral for me,
Yeah,
even like
dude.
5 years in. And whoever they had help write that show, they definitely had a consultant that's in recovery, because like
Oh yeah.
there's some really good stuff in there. Like some shit I wrote down, bro. Like, um, and a lot of
Yeah,
it also
bro.
is just like fanfare and whatever. But yeah, that's an idea. If you're listening and you're struggling, or you're listening and you know someone that is struggling, like please feel free to reach out to either of us, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
like Instagram or any way possible. Like I think our main thing is like we want to foster a community around this, and it's not a huge channel and it's not a huge whatever, but like I know a lot of people like watching at least know someone that's struggling.
It's
And
true.
so if you're struggling, please reach out. I know it's like a not a comfortable thing to do, and we just talked about how neither of us love to do that, but it is worth it. I promise. So thank you so much for listening to this one. We're already on number 4. That's pretty hype. We're
Time
just rocking and
flies.
rolling, baby. Rocking and
Yes,
rolling on
sir.
our way to 5. So thank you so much, bro, for coming back.
Yeah,
And
bro. Keep
I
keep
appreciate you so
coming.
much.
Everybody keep coming. Much love, my brother.
Much love. Love you, bro. All right. Keep coming back.